Good morning and welcome to another edition of 15 Minutes of Flame. This is Robert Phoenix, broadcasting to you live from Austin, Texas. Hello everybody. What's going on out there? Wow, what a day yesterday, huh? Huge news day. Let's get an update on the California fires here really quickly because it is a story that's worth keeping an eye on. 32 minutes ago, here we go. Let's see what we got happening here. This is from CNN. Dry weather, merciless winds with gusts predicted to reach the strength of a Category 1 hurricane. Wow, in a mountainous area. Threatened to intensify the already devastating Southern California wildfires that have driven 110,000 people from their homes. Just to give you an idea of 110,000 people, that is roughly, if I'm not mistaken, that is what is the population? I think it's about the size of let's see, Cedar Park, which is just north of here in Austin, and it's considered one of the whoa.
Hello.
Stop it. It's just considered one of the fastest growing regions in the country. Considered one of the fastest growing regions in the country and has over 100,000 people. It's like taking the entire population of Cedar Park and just moving them out of Cedar Park. It's a pretty significant number. What else do we have here? Just continue to read this. Hundreds of firefighters have been working nonstop to battle blazes racing across hillsides and through neighborhoods. Almost 9,000 homes are without power. Of course, we talked about the lines that might have been potentially cut. Officials have shut down schools and closed major thoroughfares. Yet despite a brief respite with the winds Wednesday, they began picking up again in the evening at a gust of 85 miles per hour, detected in Ventura County. You can't tell me that there isn't some artificial manipulation going on there with the weather. Yes, they do have these Sirocco winds, these Santa Ana winds. But it's convenient that they take place right in the heart of that fire. And apparently they'll come out of the desert. And just to be fair, it's not like they're just whipping them up there. But we know that the weather can be manipulated. We know the weather can be steered, controlled. We've seen it again and again and again. Our eyes were first significantly open to that with Katrina and how they were able to basically steer that hurricane and just park it right over New Orleans for a given period of time and then allow it to dump, and we know what happened after that. Now, to add to this ongoing science fiction tale, which really now is resembling kind of a war in America, is the possibility of the DEW, directed energy weapons that are being used or could be used in that area. This is what occurred in the Santa Rosa, Sonoma County area, and it was clearly stated that there are a number of defense contractors in that area. So I guess we're going to find out how many defense contractors are in the area we're talking about as well, and if the DEW systems have been set up for that part of Los Angeles and Southern California. Let's see what we have here. The humidity won't help. It will still be very low Thursday, meaning the trees and brush that have been fueling the fire will continue to be tindered. We stand a fairly good chance of a very challenging night and day Thursday, said Tim Chavez, a fire behavior analyst for CAL FIRE, at a news conference on the 90,000-acre Thomas Fire in Ventura County. There's a lot of potential for some large fire growth. Other officials say they will see a recipe for explosive growth and fire danger of 296, the highest it has ever been. The fire danger is calculated after authorities measure several factors, such as the moisture level of dead vegetation fuel. In the fire weather forecast, the scale rates 162 and above as extreme. The worst and most dangerous rating, they've got this at 296. So this is literally hell on earth. Let's see the latest developments. We've got the highway is shut down. Thomas Fire has reached U.S. Highway 101. California's longest highway, forcing officials to shut it down. Yesterday, when we were giving you updates, 101 was still open. More evacuation. Several cities in the Ojai Valley are under mandatory evacuation. And the areas of concern, they're keeping the Skirball fire at bay, but worry it will jump west of Interstate 405. So we have the Thomas fire, we have the Rye fire perimeter, Creek fire perimeter, and Skirball. Skirball is the one that's closest to Los Angeles. There have been more than 260 LA public schools and charter schools. They're closed today and tomorrow. About 300 engines, firefighter engines coming from other states into Los Angeles County are arriving. The Thomas Fire in Ventura County, which sits north and west of LA, grew significantly Wednesday to about 140 square miles. So it's not dispersing. It is actually growing. Officials there said they couldn't give a precise number of homes destroyed because flames and burned neighborhoods were still too intense for examination. But they had estimated about 150 buildings as of Wednesday night. The number will increase once the focus shifts from firefighting and rescue to more damage assessment, fire officials said. The Thomas Fire has threatened several beachfront homes in Ventura. I mean, you can just see this thing. It's kind of pouring down the hill. I know these homes. I've seen them on the highway. I've passed them by. Airborne embers were irritating firefighters' eyes, said Rich Macklin, Ventura County Fire spokesman. Jerry Brown, of course, has declared a state of emergency. And this is a brutal experience for these people. And again, it just happened overnight, just like the Sonoma fire did. There's more. Apparently, Rupert Murdoch's mansion is being threatened. That's kind of interesting. So this is a Bel Air. This is crazy. You've got firefighters that are moving out these, 6-foot tall paintings from these houses. So residents of Los Angeles' wealthy Bel Air neighborhood have found their homes under threat under another wildfire erupted in California, the so-called Skirball fire. This is the one that's closest to LA, destroyed several homes in the exclusive area, quickly spreading over 150 acres. It's interesting. Looks like the elite are having their security threatened. But I guarantee you they're going to throw all their might at that area. The neighborhood is home to celebrities and business leaders, including Beyonce and Elon Musk. Singer Lionel Richie canceled Las Vegas performance that had been scheduled for Wednesday evening, saying he was helping his family evacuate to a safer place. This is his tweet. Due to the devastating California wildfires and helping family evacuate to a safer place, I unfortunately have to cancel my show tonight. I look forward to returning to the stage this weekend, performing for my fans. Here we go. A large estate and vineyard owned and operated by billionaire media mogul Rupert Murdoch was also threatened and suffered some damage. The Getty Museum, which is also at risk, said it would remain closed on Thursday. It said it had not removed its artworks and that the air filtration systems were protecting its collection, which includes pieces by Da Vinci, Van Gogh, Turner, etc., from smoke damage. This is a big deal, folks. Really big deal. One LA resident, 84-year-old Patricia Moore, was loading her belongings into her car when she told the AFP news agency yesterday it was further north, but this morning we woke up and it was east of us. We heard the fire engines before 6 o'clock this morning, and we said maybe we should start getting our stuff into the car. So this is a big deal. Really big deal. And it's ongoing, so of course we want to try to follow up on things that are happening there, so we don't just do a little bit of a hit and run, because there are people that we know that live in that area, and there are people that you know that live in that area, and we hope that they're all very, very safe and having to deal with this incredibly unfortunate event, which, given the recent turn of events in places like Santa Rosa and Sonoma, Florida, Puerto Rico, Houston, we have to begin to think about the effects of these events and what might be the driving force behind them. Pretty simple. And it's not too far afield to think that they are indeed weaponized. Now, sometimes the weaponized events can go out of control. They can't just, weaponize them for a certain area at certain times, because who knows what happens. Let's say they actually are able to affect the mile per hour of the Santa Ana winds, and then nature kicks in and takes it up another notch, and next thing you know, you've got a runaway train, which it kind of feels like here. And they've got 4 fires, and so their resources are spread over 4 different areas. Very intense, and probably won't see that calm down for probably at least another 3 to 4 days, if that. So all prayers go out to people living in that area, and we all hope that you are safe and at the very least insured to the best of your ability, and can put your lives back together wherever it is, California or outside of the state. So speaking of another fire, this was a religious and political firestorm that was set yesterday by Donald John Trump by announcing that the United States is going to support the moving of the embassy, which is in Tel Aviv, to Jerusalem, and thus recognizing Jerusalem as the capital of Israel. Now, it's really interesting to watch the reactions to this statement. I watched Alex Jones yesterday just really, struggle to defend this, because people are clearly waking up. And his justifications for this capital being there were ridiculous. And then he's just like, well, it's just a capital. It's just a capital. Well, it's not just a capital. It's going to be on Palestinian land. Okay? This is why the Palestinians are outraged. Now, Russia came out earlier in the year, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, and they said, yeah, we'll recognize Jerusalem as the capital, but we're not going to recognize it in East Jerusalem. We're going to recognize it in West Jerusalem, which puts it outside the bounds of the Palestinian land. So this is, for all intents and purposes, looking like a new settlement. That's what it appears to be. And of course, the Palestinians are up in arms because, well, number one, it's going to take more of their land, more of their resources, and has nothing to do with them. It has everything to do with the nation state of Israel. So they're upset, they're pissed off, and apparently tomorrow there's going to be a day of rage. And here's the big psychological mind game going on. So Trump has done 2 things by making this announcement. He did it under a Mercury retrograde, by the way, which does not bode well for the actual manifestation of the capital there. So what he's done is he's made good on an election promise. Now, anytime somebody makes good on an election promise, they separate themselves from the pretenders or the contenders, and they become a contender. Barack Obama actually did this. He did this in his first term. He promised that we were going to get affordable health care, and he did. No matter what you think of it, he was actually able to execute on that. And it was timed. It was ready to go. That was the role he was going to play. Because who would oppose him? Who would oppose America's first black president when it came to something as critical as health care? Nobody. They tried it. They tried it with the Clintons, and it didn't work. That was going to be the Clintons' role. They were going to try to get the same Affordable Care Act in place. Now, between the time that they tried it and the time that Obama actually got it off the ground, Mitt Romney created the model for it in Massachusetts. So what they did is they basically lifted Romney's model, and then they tweaked it and tweaked it and tweaked it and tweaked it, and they got their own version of it. But he made good on his promise. And after that, I don't know what the promises were. There were probably none that were fulfilled. I know he wanted to close down Guantanamo. That was one of his promises. That didn't happen. He wanted to bring the troops home from Iraq. He brought some home. He got the little added bonus by capturing the fake Osama bin Laden and theoretically ending the war on terror, but that didn't really happen either. That was just a another psychological operation. But he made well on the one promise. So here comes Trump. He says, I'm going to do this. This is part, he's got big promises. And he's actually come through on some of them. He came through on the TPP, shot that down. He came through on the climate change stuff. No matter what you think about climate change, a very divisive topic. And I'm of the mindset that we're creating our own climate change by hacking the biosphere with all of these grids and smart meters and the Gwen towers and the HARP installations. I mean, I think we're cooking the planet is what we're doing. So we're creating our own version of climate change. And then, of course, we have everything that's going up into the atmosphere. It's another element of this. Keep it all in. Keep the radiant light in of the planet, not the radiant light of the sun. So this is a big deal. So we're creating it. That's my experience and feeling, and we've been doing it for a while. And according to the data, well, the planets are getting hot across the solar system. It's not just Terra that's heating up; it's all the other planets as well. So this is one of the reasons why climate change is kind of a scam. But to Trump's credit, he got us out of the Paris Accord. And you may hate him for that, but that's what he did. So he's lived up to two promises. His third promise was to recognize Jerusalem as the capital. Now, there's a reason why I think he's being forced to do it, although maybe he's doing it just because he loves his son-in-law so much, is because people like Sheldon Adelson have given him huge amounts of money. And apparently Adelson has been pretty pissed off over the fact that Trump has not done this sooner. He should, supposed to do it day one, day two. That would have been, I guess, the most expedient way of doing it. Maybe Michael Flynn could have done it before they started this whole process. And maybe that's what he was trying to do, to be honest with you. Clearly, there's a link between Flynn and Jared Kushner in the UN and Russia, which the media is not pursuing at all. They want to leave that alone. That's getting into the third rail territory. And another reason why Trump has made good on his promise is because he's living in a world, a politically charged world, where it's almost akin to gang warfare and alliances between different crime families. So by doing this, what is he getting out of it? Well, he's getting the kudos from the people that helped put him in office and donated significant amounts of money. But he's also getting a form of protection, you see. Now, all of a sudden, guess what? The impeachment resolution, that failed. Now he's got Chuck Schumer praising him, right? So all of a sudden, you're going to see the tide turn in Trump's favor because of this decision. Because there are people who have huge amounts of power, huge amounts of influence, and huge amounts of money that control what other people say and do as it is related to the media. That's just how the game works. I've been talking about for a long time now that we are caught in the crosshairs between the neocons and the neoliberals. One side wants a top-down, one world order based on fascist law, control, and rule. The other wants a top-down, one world order based on socialist law, control, and rule. One side has incorporated the idea of capitalism and has basically taken the American values, theoretically, and then hybridized them to the neocon Zionist model. So now if you decide that you want to do something different, it's become so interstitial and interbred at a high level that you are rejecting American values. They're not really American values. They're American values that are tied and wedded to an ideology which has become part of this hybridized system of control. And I'm going to get into the Christian side of this. because that's really where the rubber hits the road. The Christians are vehemently defending this. And I'm going to bring up a little piece here. And this is from CBN. This is the Christian Broadcasting Network. I'm going to give you their point of view as to what happened yesterday. This is what their reportage is. Evangelicals are ecstatic over the Trump administration's plans to recognize Jerusalem as Israel's capital and relocate the U.S. Embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. Promise made, promise kept, declared Pastor Paula White. She's on Trump's advisory board. A member of the President's Faith Advisory Council and senior pastor of New Destiny Christian Center in Orlando, Florida. Once again, President Trump has shown the world what I have always known. He is a leader who is willing to do what is right, however loud the voices are of the skeptics and the critics. She said evangelicals are ecstatic for Israel is to us a sacred place, and the Jewish people are our dearest friends. Faith leaders agree that the move is long overdue and are praising President Donald Trump for being the first in a long line of U.S. presidents in several decades to stand by America's ally in such a major way. It is quite possible that President Donald Trump's statement on Israel today is the single most important announcement regarding Israel by a U.S. president since President Harry Truman recognized Israel as a state 70 years ago on May 14th, 1948. Where did I get that May 14th number? It's an interesting number. It's in my head somewhere. Dr. Jim Garlow, senior pastor of Skyline Church, said in a statement, former Arkansas Governor Mike Huckabee agreed. For over 2 decades, American presidents have talked the good talk on Israel. He said, but when it comes to taking action, they've hesitated and kicked the can down the road instead of standing with our ally and recognizing its right to call Jerusalem its capital. Today, President Donald Trump did what his predecessors didn't have the courage to do, Huckabee continued. In so doing, he set 2 great examples for us how to make good on promises and how to treat your friends. You see how this is all sculpted and crafted? This billboard has been posted in Jerusalem by pro-Israel evangelical Mike Evans, thanking Trump for the move. God bless Trump from Jeru, USA, Lem, D.C., David's capital, to Washington, D.C. This is a billboard, and it's combining the 2 flags. It's combining Jerusalem and Washington. Rabbi Yechiel Eckstein, founder and president of the International Fellowship of Christians and Jews, noted it is a bold, courageous move that is long overdue and is especially significant coming from Israel's closest ally. Both Jews and Christians around the world have prayed for this day, which rights a historic wrong by affirming to the world that Jerusalem is the eternal capital of the Jewish people. So this is not just moving the embassy there. This is a major event, if indeed this does happen. Now, it took place on a Mercury retrograde. Of course the Christians love this. Of course they love it. Biblical timing of absolute precision. John Hagee praises Trump Jerusalem decision. This is aligning with their prophecy. And of course, the prophecy is that there has to be one state, there has to be one Israel in order for the second coming to come around again, for the second coming to occur. And what's really interesting is that if you look at the theoretical version of the second coming, it's about the people of Israel having the opportunity to repent one more time before the final judgment is made. This is what the second coming is about. And what's happened is that through the muscular reworking of the Christian religion, through the infusion of Christian Zionism, they've essentially remodeled that version of the prophecy. And what it's come down to now is that it's not really the people of Israel. It is the other people, the Palestinians. The Palestinians and all the various Semitic people in the Fertile Crescent. This is how they've kind of reworked that that eschaton, right? That eschatology. So this is a very important move on their part because for them it furthers the prophecy. And they have absolutely no desire to kind of rework this world at all. In their minds, they're ready to go to the rapture. That the rapture experience is right around the corner, and this is going to fulfill prophecy. And they don't have any problem with it. Now, what's happened is if you look at the way the game has been sort of rigged in some ways, that if you are against this decision, then it pits you on the other side. So now you're anti-Christian, you're anti-America, you're anti-Trump, and as a result, you might even be now Antifa. Because this is how the game has been rigged. It's a divide and conquer game. Total divide and conquer game. And Trump's role is to create chaos. It's the Sun-Uranus conjunction. True Node and Gemini. He's here to create chaos and control the world. And there is some benefit to that. Because the system, as we've talked about before, was going to go through and will go through a major overhaul. It's going to happen. Whether it was Trump or whether it was Hillary, it was going to happen. It would be different under Hillary. We're getting this version. We're getting the MAGA version, according to Trump. And there are people who just think it's absolutely great. So what's next on the agenda? That's the big question, right? That's the $64,000 question. Where do they go from here? Well, likely the next big thing, since we're having this alliance, this big alliance now, is that we're probably going to look at war with Iran. That is going to be the big piece. It is not North Korea. It's going to be Iran, and they're going to essentially load the deck now because we have our allies. We're aligned, right? This has happened, even though it's a Mercury retrograde, and oftentimes in Mercury retrograde things don't stick. There's a reversal. But it's out in the open now. You see how that Mercury retrograde happened at 29 Sagittarius, by the way? And that 29 Sagittarius is the final degree. It's the anaretic degree. When we deal with Sagittarius, what are we talking about? We're talking about religion and the orthodox religions. The two signs that are closely connected to religion and spirituality are what? Sagittarius and Pisces. Those are the two that are most connected. Sagittarius from an ideological perspective, and Pisces from a spiritual perspective. One could be considered exoteric, the other esoteric. One could be considered the form, the other could be considered the essence. Okay, just keep that in mind. So now the next phase here will be war with Iran. And everything now from this point forward is being kind of geared towards psychologically massaging people towards that outcome. It's just the way it is. It's the way it is. Because once you make decisions in your mind, ideologically you're committing. So if you're committing this is a good thing, then you're committing. And the next level would be the next level of your commitment, whatever that thing is. And then the next level, and the next level, and the next level. So it's not just making an announcement. It's about psychological conditioning and more divide and conquer, to be quite honest with you. You know, in my perfect world, we would remove ourselves from most of our foreign conflicts and the internecine strife that we've been involved in for years and just bring it on home. That's what I would do. Let these other countries figure it out, but there's so much money involved, so much power involved, so many promises. There's blackmailing involved, there's extortion involved, there's all these things that are involved. It's huge. Huge, 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 huge. So this is what we're dealing with here. Ordo ad chao, order out of chaos. And certainly we are now being initiated into another stage and level of chaos via this decision. Eddie Lin, who's a great cryptographer putting things together, was posting on Facebook yesterday, and he made an allusion to Trump as Biff from Back to the Future, and he was making the allusion based on Hiram Abiff, who of course is a central figure in Freemasonry, and that as Biff, Trump, if you watch Back to the Future, the second one, number 2, where they actually go to the future, and Marty McFly encounters his high school nemesis Biff as a Trumpian-like character who lives his life out of a hotel, looks like Trump, and is maniacal. He's absolutely maniacal. So Eddie has made this connection between Biff and Hiram Abiff, and that Trump is going to be the guy who is the architect, not the. Remember, he's a builder too, right? He is a builder. He's not a community organizer. He's a builder. So this fits kind of a biblical and prophetic role, that he's a builder, and he is going to be the one who will build the new temple on the Rock of the Dome. This is what Eddie's talking about, that Hiram Abiff is the great architect of Freemasonry, and this is Trump's role. Well, it's going to be interesting to see how this unfolds. Now, look, I said this before, and I'll say it again. Okay? Even if you know Trump, you can't trust him. You cannot trust him. Not with the Sun-Uranus conjunction and the true node in Gemini, because he can flip. He can flip like that. He also has a Neptune-Mercury square in his chart, which is not great for being absolutely clear about the truth. Let's put it that way. We covered that on Sunday Night Show. So even though this decision has been made, and even though Sheldon Adelson is probably toasting this morning, and has been toasting all day yesterday, I still wouldn't feel all that confident in some ways, because I think he can pull the rug out from under anybody based on his chart. Now that remains to be seen if he'll do it, but remember, this was done under Mercury retrograde, and things don't often come through when the Mercury retrograde is initiated, or when an event happens under Mercury retrograde. So it's a big day yesterday in terms of biblical prophecy and all kinds of stuff that we can now wrap our heads around and witness. You're a witness to epic times. It may not seem like that. It may seem to be very difficult times, and at times it is, but you're a witness to it. And your witnessing of it is something pretty tremendous. And we've talked about that before, the witness as a participant. So as we engage our witness self, and we engage our conscious awareness around these events, the events themselves can be altered and changed to some degree. Remember Heisenberg's theory that the experiment is altered simply by the presence of the observer in the experiment. So sometimes we don't have to do anything except observe and watch it all, and from a perspective that gives us the highest degree of perception that we can. And that's what we do here every day from roughly 9:11 to right around 9:45, 9:50, sometimes a little bit over, is to peel back the layers and give you other ways of witnessing and viewing the events of the world, and perhaps even the events of your life. So remember, you can find more information about this show and myself, Robert Phoenix, at robertphoenix.com. I have holiday specials going on for the astrological side. Check those out. And I've got the webinar coming up on Saturday, astrolata.com. It's going to be a good one on Saturn and Capricorn. You can go to astrolata.com and sign up. A lot of people have, and I'm really looking forward to getting into that on Saturday. So that's about it. You know the drill. Use your head to discern what's real, your heart to stay open to what's possible. I'm Robert Phoenix. Thanks again for showing up, and thanks again for all your support and kindness, especially around my mother. Just to let you know, she's better. She was released from the hospital yesterday. So thank you for all the kind thoughts and emails and responses on Facebook. It means a lot. Means a lot. All right, you guys take care, and we'll be back 24 hours from today, and have a splendid day.